Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 is episode 1957. Is Donald Trump another Bismarck? Before I proceed, you can follow me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Luck number 3, Looky Luck Roman number 3, which are 3 eyes, or Looky Luck Roman 3 podcast. Furthermore, if you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast.proton.me. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/Looky Luck number 3. Oh, yeah. So, found out the Bilderberg meetings happening in D.C., Washington, D.C., from the 10th to the 12th. And I was looking at some of the potential attendees going to be there, including Mark Carney, Marco Rubio, Peter Hegseth, and even a gentleman from Spotify, and so forth. Interesting, but a lot of folks are supposed to be there. And I thank Dan Dix for sharing that, and others were talking about this morning. So don't get too distracted over one thing or 25th Amendment on Donald Trump and all that. Like I told people, it's only a prop. I do see that he's been, well, I can say, act like King Saul, supposedly, metaphorically speaking. Maybe diving on his own sword. However, I think I can say this. He don't look too good in the past few press conferences I watched over the weekend and so forth. Looks like he hasn't been sleeping very well. Sleep deprivation. And, like I said, folks, it's just another vehicle that's been planned out for a very long time. Because all these goofballs are talking about 25th Amendment. Has he lost his mind? Like Tim Walz says, he's lost his mind. I go, hey, how about you? And, the Orwellian Fang boy, Eric Swalwell, claims that, oh yeah, we need to do a 25th Amendment. I'm like, hey, you remove yourself first, then we'll talk. See, all you folks out there, and I'm not defending Trump by any means, but what we're seeing is I want the finger pointing now, and we'll have that faction power. It's been going on for a very long time, and it's very treacherous to our republic. I do agree with Pat Buchanan. We say we need to be a republic again. Constitutional republic, not an empire. But they all want to go after him, call him a racist. Yay! All hail to the Marxonian graduates. Woo! Give me your communist fist and put your hand and go, I want respect and money. I don't want to work. That's how these idiots think. And I digress, of course. So, I always got to look at things a lot more than what's been going on. Very complex. Not very complex, but there was all once distraction get triggered real quick. But that's just my viewpoint on this. I recommend folks to do a little search on Kathy O'Brien. And I remember this one show was called Man America. I think his name is Seth. I could be mistaken, but it was really good. I've been following her interviews and reading about her for like the past 25 years. You can thank David Icke for that. Shout out to him from the book The Biggest Secret. And I went a little further. I'm like, wow. I hope he's not making this stuff up. So all you people call us conspiracy theorists. We wear tinfoil hats. Look who's eating crow now. Not honestly, it's out of arrogance, but with love and good faith. Well, without further ado, I'm going to be reading something here from the Mises Institute, Mises.org, under the wire. Is Donald Trump another Bismarck? It's been written by Gregory Brasiger. As it reads here, President Trump is waging or threatening to wage several presidential wars ostensibly violating the Constitution, which specifies that only Congress, not the president, has the power to declare war, but the president controls the armed forces. Of course, the War Powers Act, right? Woo! The president's raging war or threatening to wage war without the authority of a congressional war declaration, says Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky. There's an act of war. Rand recently said in discussing the U.S. invasion of Venezuela, the same arguments are now made as the U.S. wars on Iran. And many people said this was done during the Barbary Pirates, United States' first war on terrorism under the Jefferson administration. Those claims, I'm not saying it's true or not, but there's some merit to it, but we don't know the whole picture, respectfully. So I'll continue on. While Paul and Iranian war critics seem to have the Constitution on their side, Trump has history on his. Imperial presidents, both Republican and Democrat, have sidestepped Congress's war powers for over a century, since World War II, and often before. In many cases, presidents make war without a war declaration, often ignoring Congress. President Truman, the author of the Truman Doctrine that pledged U.S. military aid for any country battling communism, plunged the United States into the Korean War without a declaration of war. A few months into the Korean War, in a speech on the Senate on June 28, 1950, Senator Robert Taft, Republican from Ohio, complained that it should be noted there has been no pretense of consulting Congress. No resolution has ever been introduced asking for the approval of Congress for use of American forces in Korea. Well, what can we say about that, right? And we can go here. How do presidents do it? One part of the imperial presidency is presidents wage war and ignore or give little attention to Congress, which can always stop an imperial president by cutting off funding. But that's something Congress will rarely do. As commander-in-chief, a president has various ways to force wars upon Americans, whether they approve it or not. This is why Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution, the House are the originators of revenue. So, with the other words, the power of the purse. Well, many of them haven't done it as long as their person's in there. I'll continue on. President Wilson, who declared the United States neutrality when World War I began in 1914, was reelected in 1916 on the idea that he kept us out of war, yet behind the scenes, through his de facto Secretary of State advisor, Edward House, Wilson negotiated with the British on how the U.S. would intervene, which it did in 1917. Wilson also assisted German warnings to the contrary, as supposedly neutral U.S. ships has the right to go into war zones. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Assistant Secretary of the Navy under Wilson, followed a similar policy in the run-up to U.S. participation in World War II. Before the declaration of war with Germany, FDR sent U.S. ships deep into the North Atlantic war zone, escorting supplies to the Allies. FDR, mindful of stay out of the war public opinion polls, said the U.S. was neutral. FDR lied. The U.S. was working with British warships to track German ships. However, Germany was not looking for war with the United States in the first 2 years of the war. Yes, Hitler envisioned Germany eventually conquering America. Germany's Z plan was based on the idea that a defeated or a neutral Britain would ally with Germany. They would conquer the United States, according to Holger H. Herwig's The Politics of Frustration, the United States in German Naval Planning, 1889 to 1941. As long as Britain survived, the moment Germany attacked the Soviet Union in the summer of 1941, the United States was not in danger, argues Bruce M. Russett in No Clear and Present Danger. President Lyndon Baines Johnson, who admired FDR, campaigned in 1964 on the idea that his opponent, Senator Barry Goldwater, was a warmonger. But LBJ misled Americans, according to the Pentagon Papers. He famously said the Vietnam War that American boys shouldn't be expected to do what Asian boys should do for themselves. Once elected, he did the opposite. LBJ pushed the nation deeper into Vietnam. Novelist Philip Roth called him Lion Baines Johnson. Usually, in my view, B stands for a backstabber. But I'll continue on. However, Johnson's predecessor, President John Kennedy, has sent some 16,000 troops to Vietnam without congressional approval. Senator Taft, on his deathbed in 1954, had his son read a speech begging President Eisenhower not to send troops to save French Indochina Empire. Like concurred, curiously, Lyndon Johnson, then Senate Majority Leader, agreed with Taft. President George H.W. Bush waged the first war, Iraq, without a declaration of war, but he did get use of force of approval from Congress. But Bush, in an illustration of how Congress often has become irrelevant, said before the vote that he was going to war no matter the vote. Congress is not part of the problem. It has often avoided messy foreign crisis or rallied around the flag once the shooting started. Although its path to prevent presidential war is clear, Congress, which over a decade tacitly approved the Vietnam War, finally, after some 50,000 American deaths, stopped U.S. participation in 1975. It cut off funding, something it could have done in 1965. The power has been there since the founding of the Republic. Alexander Hamilton, writing in Federalist 24, wrote that the whole power of raising armies was lodged in the legislature, not the executive. Nevertheless, John Lehman, a former Navy secretary under Ronald Reagan, has noted in his book, Making War, that most of the time Congress backed down. Almost all executive military actions were finally either approved by some legislative act or exquisite by inaction. One thinks of Bismarck's illegal action in the Prussian constitutional crisis of 1862. He ignored the parliament and spent money without authorization. 2 years later, after a successful war against Denmark, the Prussian parliament reversed itself and applauded the Iron Chancellor. Regardless of one's view of President Trump, he is doing nothing unusual, just more blatant. Reversing the imperial presidency, assuming one thinks that the president has too much power in matters of war, requires a political view of presidents. It also requires an institutional reassertion of Congress's powers to declare, prevent, or stop war. I'd like to add this note, which is not in this article. Abraham Lincoln, they call it the Civil War. It's just, to me, that term is more of a damage control, which is try to drill it in our heads. But when you start reading about it, they were a new federation of states, sovereign jurisdiction. So how is that a civil war? But Lincoln invaded the southern states without congressional approval. So you could add him to the Bismarck list. It doesn't matter what party it is, folks. Both sides have been doing it for a long time. And this is why Congress needs to have a set of balls or gusto to say, hell no, not one or two. It's got to unify as a whole, which they've haven't been exercising principle, but more party over that. And that's why I renounce them all. You want to impeach Donald Trump? Do the 25th Amendment? Everyone in Congress, been there for a very long time especially, needs to be removed also because they have arrogantly breached their oath of office. And the states should tell D.C. where to go. We're going to stop funding you. We don't need your federal dollars. We can generate it ourselves. Article 1, Section 10 of the U.S. Constitution. This is why, my friends, Congress has the power to declare war. It only happened 5 times since its republic. War of 1812, Mexican-American War, Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II. Even though there's a lot of controversies on how it all started. Both sides weren't really completely innocent. When it comes to politics, it is one of the most filthy, it is a very filthy institution. An outhouse smells a lot better than that entity. So always, folks, think for yourselves. If you don't learn from the past, we're damned to repeat it. Well, that will be it. I'll thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, etc., whatever you do, please use decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. I'll leave the article of this page so you can check it out for yourselves. If you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or Cash Out @/look3. If you want to support Mises Institute, that'd be great. Observe responsibly. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniacal resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.